Okay, so the Apple event is over. I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes long or something. So, a bunch of different websites basically gave rundowns of what Apple has just announced. Now, while I was watching it, because I was watching bits and pieces of it, and then while I was in traffic, I was watching the rest of it. They had some very good ideas, and they had some interesting, how should I say, software innovations, some of which won't be available immediately upon launch. We've reached a point where a lot of products are launched even when they're not complete, and that's because these companies are determined to chase after quarterly earnings reports and everything. So rather than just wait until the product's actually released with all of the components working, they don't do that anymore. And that's been hell on the gaming industry. Like, they've had to lay off a lot of people, partially because the games suck. Whoever is making these games woke, and they're making these games dumb. Nobody who actually wants to buy these games is buying them. So they had to end up laying off a lot of people. But see, in Apple's case, Apple has another issue. Their issue is America has a trade war basically going on with China, and is causing Apple to start to move a lot of their business over to India, which was also interesting because I felt that was evident while I was watching this. I guess you could call it a keynote or whatever you want to call it, because they didn't just do it in one place. Of course, they do it in that Apple mothership place. But it felt more Indian than ever before. Like, usually, yeah, they may show one or two of the Indian workers, but not only were the workers, like, Indian, but the music was, too. Like, it really, really felt more Indian than, like, ever before. And I don't know if you picked up on that, but I did. So, yeah, it says here's everything just announced. So I'm going to make this very quick. So they said, okay, so here's what Apple announced. They announced the iPhone 16, iPhone 16 Plus, iPhone 16 Pro, iPhone 16 Pro Max. Then they announced the Apple Watch Series 10 with an updated design, polished titanium option, and a new S10 chip. Then they announced the Apple Watch Ultra 2, and now it comes in black, so it has like a black finish rather than just the titanium silverish finish. AirPods 4, an updated AirPods Max in new colors with USB-C charging. Then they also announced, of course, the artificial intelligence, Apple Intelligence features for iPhone 16. So really, really quickly, I'm just going to say this. Now, starting with iPhone 16 Pro, iPhone 16 Pro Max, I've already specifically said that I was not going to buy iPhone 16 unless they release this thing with 2 terabytes. Now, on the recent trip that I had just taken, where I went to Bali and I went to Singapore, I had taken a lot of different video clips, and I like to be able to sew my video clips together on the phone, finalize the video on the phone, and then when I get to Wi-Fi, I'm able to simply upload them. That's just what it is. Singapore had far better internet service than Bali did. So when I was in Bali, it took a very long time to upload 15 or 30-minute clips. So I said, okay, fine. What I'll do is I'll store these 15, 30-minute clips, and I'll make individual videos out of those or vlogs out of those. But when I got to Singapore, Singapore's internet was so much better. I was able to, push larger clips because, Singapore's internet was so much better. In Bali, it took like almost a day to move an hour's worth of video. So it was like you have to store these clips and you have to store them on the phone until you can actually get back home. And then you're able to, put them together, and then you're able to upload them. The problem is that the more clips and stuff you have on your phone, obviously it eats up the space. And the phone needs a lot of space in order to finalize the full video. So if you're talking about a full video that's like 3 or 4 hours long or 5 or 6 hours long, the 1 terabyte version really doesn't have a problem doing a video that long. The problem is I have so much other stuff since I skipped over iPhone 15. I have so much other stuff in my phone going back to the days that I had iPhone 12. So my problem is I need more storage. I'm willing to pay for it. I don't care. If they had announced a 2 terabyte iPhone and it had a $2,000 price tag, to me, that's nothing. My iPhone, my YouTube videos, they earn money back for me. So a $2,000 phone doesn't mean anything to me because it's going to pay itself back very quickly. I'm not going to buy iPhone 16. I'll definitely visit the store when iPhone 16 comes out. Maybe I'll go there the day it does come out and I'll visit the store just so I can see the phone physically. But the thing about it is, as far as I'm concerned, this iPhone 16, the only thing it really has that is a major change from the 15 is that now what they have done is they've created a capacitive touch button for making this thing basically a point and shoot camera. See, and it's funny because I was wondering if they would actually put a physical button on the side of the phone, since when you take an iPhone and you actually use the camera, because of the way the center of gravity is in the phone, most people are going to tilt the camera towards its left, and they're going to be, the camera shutter and all that stuff is on the left-hand side. So it makes sense for the action button to be able to use the shutter to be on the bottom right-hand side. So that side becomes up while the phone is tilted towards the left. And it actually becomes more and more like a camera. Up until now, you've had to use two of the buttons that were the volume up, volume down button, and you had to use those on the bottom left of the phone. And because of the way you hold the phone, it throws the center of gravity way off. Now they've addressed that issue. So it's not a physical button, but what it is like a capacitive touch button that has some, sensors and whatnot in it. And it looks pretty good. I want to be able to use it in person. On the screen, it basically does features such as zoom, and it gives you quick access to some of the camera functions. Now, my thing is, I don't feel that the camera functions are necessary simply because on the screen, you actually have full access to the camera functions. So it doesn't make sense to use miniature camera functions there. What does make sense is making it a capacitive touch slide zoom. Now, that made a lot of sense, and I'm glad to see that they did that. Bottom line is, this iPhone 16 only goes up to 1 terabyte. The iPhone 15 only went up to 1 terabyte. I specifically said if they don't give us 2 terabytes, I'm not buying it. So therefore, now I have to push my iPhone 14 a whole nother year. And my iPhone 14 is starting to show wear now. The battery is down to about 83% health. The screen has a couple of little nicks in it, but it's starting to show wear now. The rest of the body is okay, but I don't really use covers and screen protectors and all that stuff. So yeah, it's starting to show a little bit of wear. It's starting to get duller. The more you use something, it's going to get duller no matter what. It doesn't matter, it's just that you keep using it. You're wearing it down. That's just what it is. So right there, I was very disappointed. They can talk about the fact that the iPhone 16's chip is way faster. So they got this A18 chip and it's way, way faster than even my 14. They say the A18 is 50% faster than my 14. That means that when the iPhone 17 comes out, obviously that's going to be much faster. And it's funny because, the speed, in my opinion, doesn't really matter so much, with the exception that they keep on putting new software on that may require a faster CPU to use it. I don't play games on my phone for the most part. None of the I do play some games, but the games that I play are not graphic intensive. What they're ultimately doing is they're pushing these phones and making them so powerful that they basically are able to give you graphics like you'd expect out of video game consoles. Last year with the iPhone 15, they were making a big deal out of Resident Evil Village, I believe it was. Considering these phones have product cycles more frequently than video game consoles do, eventually what will happen is the phones will catch right up to the video game consoles and surpass them, simply because the video game consoles, in my opinion, are on their way out. video game consoles are becoming less and less profitable, it's actually easier for you to just do everything over the internet. And I think Microsoft might be moving in that direction. But that's neither here nor there. They say that they have Apple video capture in 4K at 120 frames per second. It's the highest resolution and frame rate yet. Okay, that's great. So I can shoot 120 frames per second and I can shoot in 4K video. But guess what? If you don't give me more storage, making this the best camera in the universe doesn't really matter to me because I can't store what I need to store if you're not going to give me more storage. And that's always been my issue. It's like they got a 48 megapixel camera. So when you take a look at the file sizes for your individual pictures, every picture is exponentially larger than it was on every single phone going back towards the XS Max. So the issue is, if you're not going to give me more storage, yeah, you can give me all the megapixel cameras you want. The problem is, how am I going to store these videos? How am I going to store these pictures? You know, because you got to understand, 4K video is very taxing on these phones. When you use 4K video, first of all, the phone heats up faster. You have to turn the brightness down just to stop it from heating up so fast. On top of that, it uses a lot of storage much, much faster. 4K video is fine. Like some of these Android phones, they probably go up to 8K and 9K and 10K and 30K or whatever. The problem is nobody can actually really enjoy that content because most of us have 4K televisions or less. I don't know anybody who has an 8K television. I don't know anybody personally. I have a 4K television. I have a 1080p television. I have a 720p television. I have a 720p television on the shelf with my toy collection. You could give me 8K video and there's like nothing I can do with it. It's like I can make videos on YouTube, but very few people could even enjoy them because their own monitors don't go that high. Most people who have a monitor and a computer, most of these monitors are 1080p. Now, for the gaming crowd, a lot of them have 1440p. Very few people actually have 4K monitors. Now, that doesn't include the people who are watching on, say, one of these new MacBooks or one of these new laptops. But how many people in the world really have a brand new laptop or a brand new MacBook? If you really look, it's most people don't. So as far as I'm concerned, 4K is fine for now. I don't need anything higher than that, especially when you're, putting video on YouTube. Or if you go on social media, if you put video on Facebook, you put video on Instagram, you put video on TikTok, they are downscaling all of that to 720. You're not putting 4K video on any of those sites. You're just not. So it's something you really don't necessarily need. Now, 4K at 120 frames per second, yeah, that sounds really nice if you're watching whatever you're shooting on a 4K screen and you're watching it at 120 frames per second. But then that also beckons the question, how many people actually have a television that's able to do 120 frames per second? Most people do not have a 120 frame per second TV. Most people have a television that either is doing 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. So it's advanced technology for the future. Spatial video, like they made a little bit of a deal about you being able to shoot spatial video, but then that beckons the question, how many people own an Apple Vision Pro? That thing was $4,000. I don't know anybody who has an Apple Vision Pro. The only people I saw that rushed in to buy one, there were a few, rich dummies who just wanted to have one just to say that they could have one. They could afford it. A lot of those people returned the Apple Vision Pro. I think as far as I'm concerned, the Apple Vision Pro, it was a very impressive product, but as far as I'm concerned, it was a flop. You built me something that nobody can afford. A $4,000 virtual reality headset. I know somebody might try to argue, it was only $3,500 or it was only $3,800. Yeah, well, we've got this thing called tax. So yeah, it came out to over $4,000. So the bottom line is, yeah, you built this thing. This thing's $4,000. How many people are buying something like that? The answer is not many. So I've yet to see Apple release data about the Apple Vision Pro. Maybe they have it somewhere. I don't know. I haven't seen them release specific sales data. But the thing about it is, as far as I'm concerned, that thing was a flop. So the iPhone 16, they say it starts at $1,000, and the Pro Max is going to start at $1,199. So you're paying $200 more for the larger screen. It says both models will be available for pre-order on Friday, with in-store sales starting on September 20th. I will not be waiting for the pre-order to open up. And I will also bet that most other people aren't either. I think Apple has run into a serious problem. I think the iPhone has peaked. I felt that the iPhone peaked back with iPhone 12, honestly. iPhone 12 Pro Max during COVID. When we had COVID and they brought out the iPhone 12 and everybody was at home, I felt that the iPhone peaked then. It was water resistant. It pretty much had every single feature that you'd expect it to have. So now all they can do is up the ante by saying, yeah, well, we're giving you a fast processor, we're giving you artificial intelligence, and we're giving you a camera button. And that's basically what it is. The iPhone 15, yeah, they gave you a little titanium shell, and then they took away the ringer button and they made it a hardened button. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's cool and everything, but you can count me out. So I think iPhone has peaked. I really believe for the 17 they're going to have to radically change the design of the iPhone, because as far as I'm concerned, it peaked. Now, please don't say anything about folding phones. Folding phones are stupid. And what's funny is, at this point, more and more people have realized that those folding phones aren't good. The material that screen is made of has problems, especially after repeated folds and repeated use. People who bought those things a year ago, most of those people have traded those back in for a regular Android phone. A lot of those people are not. It's funny because even when I'm out, I rarely see anybody who has one of those folding phones anymore. I used to see them when they first got, trying to popularize them and advertise them aggressively. I don't see those things at all anymore. Now most of the people who I see have iPhones for the most part. What does it say? They said there's a new update to voice memos coming later, will allow people to layer other tracks atop previously recorded voice memos. For example, the feature will help musicians testing out song ideas layer a guitar track over a vocal track. Okay, that's great. But the question is, how many sound engineers are working on their iPhone? So I guess that, that must be something that you'd just be using if you're on like social media. So then they said, we got Apple Intelligence. Now, there's a lot of AI features in our phones already, and I stumbled upon them by accident. In fact, I was showing one of my friends yesterday. She wanted to show us pictures of her dog, and she didn't know where the pictures were in the phone. So I told her, go to your phone's search bar and just type dog. And when she typed dog, she was shocked that it came up and it showed some of her pictures of her dog. As you know, with these phones, the phones can learn people's faces. And if you assign a name to that person, the phone is able to identify that person all throughout all the photos in the phone. As long as that person's face is clearly seeable, the phone is able to do that with the intelligence features that are there. The phone is also able to search through your emails that are stored on the phone. It's able to search through your pictures for certain words that may appear in the picture. It's actually a very nice feature to have that level of intelligence. So what they were showing was that Apple has the ability to create images. It has the ability to, it says Apple Intelligence operates across languages, images, action, and personal context. It said the data is never stored or shared with Apple, and the independent experts can verify this privacy promise. It says one feature highlighted is the new generative emoji, which will allow users to create custom emojis by typing in a few words. So that's kind of like when I go on, not really Chat GPT, but when I go on text to image, and I say, hey, Google, I want you to create me a photo of Kamala Harris serving Slurpees or making Slurpees. And then it actually did that. Like, I actually pulled up an image of that, and it was amazing. So, that would be great for content creators, because this way you don't need anybody to help create thumbnails for you, for one. You can make AI-generated thumbnails. It says features such as generating emojis and new visual intelligence features will come later. But here's the problem, though. You're showing me this shit now. You're supposed to have all this stuff ready now. You're not supposed to give me something. Oh yeah, well you'll get that feature 5 months from now. Nah, I don't know when you're gonna release it. All I know is you're trying to sell me the hardware now. If you're trying to sell me the hardware now, I expect the software to be working, and that's just how I feel about it. So they announced new colors. Now it says, it says the new iPhone has aerospace grade aluminum, 85% recycled content. Two size options, 6.1 and 6.7, customizable action buttons, all new camera control buttons, so it's got the camera button, a brand new A18 chip, new 48 megapixel camera, new ultra wide camera that allows for automatic focus and more light, spatial photos, customizable pinnable collections. The spatial photos, I don't know how far that's going. Like, if you don't have Apple Vision Pro, spatial photos really doesn't mean much to you. But that's just where we are. It's like you released a product and it was so expensive that nobody bought it. Like, now you're trying to breathe new life into that product using your adjacent products. And it kind of doesn't make sense because now the stuff is so expensive, nobody can afford it. So, the next thing down after iPhone, the next disappointment for me was that they said that, they're just giving new features to Apple's AirPods Pro 2. I was hoping that they would make the Pro 2s more like the AirPod 3s. So it would have touch control and all that. So they basically, during this thing, they basically kept bringing up the fact that your hearing is in danger. It's as if Apple thought, oh yeah, America's going deaf. And that seemed to be like the main, the main focus at these Apple events now is health. And there's nothing wrong with that because, that can be very advantageous, especially to older people who are unhealthy. But one of the things they mentioned was that you were going to be able to use your Apple Watch for detecting sleep apnea. And then they followed up by saying, your AirPod Pros can be used to protect your hearing, to give you hearing tests, and to, use the active noise canceling in order to cancel out background noise, again, to help protect your hearing. I was disappointed that the AirPod Pro 2s didn't get upgraded to third generation. I probably would have gone in and bought them if they had gotten updated to third generation. Because, see, my problem is I would hate to buy them and then they turn around with the AirPod 3s later on, the Pro 3s. I would hate to buy the 2 and then they turn around with the 3s and make a superior product and say, yeah, well, you shouldn't have bought those 2s. You should have waited. So I can wait. Right now I have a pair of $25 Skull Candy Dime Blacks. And when I go places where there's very loud noise and loud music, even if it's a church building, I will typically pop them into my ears because they help to reduce the air pressure and the sound pressure that would normally be hitting my eardrums. At a certain point, I experience pain from having these loud noises, especially from a loudspeaker not far away. So yes, I have to have something to protect my hearing. putting in a pair of earphones or earbuds is probably the best way to go, because for the most part, the ones I have, nobody really notices them. They're small enough not to be noticed. But that was the whole point. They were like, yeah, well, we can protect your hearing, and we can use active noise canceling to shut the outside out. And on top of that, we can also test your hearing to make sure you can still hear okay. So, that's what it was. They also had an update for the AirPods Max. So they said, yeah, you got USB-C in those now. So that was pretty much anticipated because Europe forced Apple pretty much to adopt a USB-C policy so that they have common charging across everything. So that's the AirPods Max. They have brand new colors. So they got orange, purple, and starlight. And they said they're still $549. I don't see a whole lot of people wearing these things, and it makes sense because these things are just so big. You're better off just going with the EarPod Pros. Chances are you probably get better sound quality, and it's more practical because you're not walking around looking like a douchebag wearing a pair of freaking snow muffs on your ears. Because to me, that's what these things look like. Whenever I see somebody with these things, that's what it looks like. It looks like somebody's walking around wearing earmuffs in the snow. That's what it looks like. They said we got AirPod Pro 4s. So the AirPod Pro 4s, they said the major thing is you'll be able to nod your head yes or nod your head no. And that can be a yes or no gesture. So if Siri comes up and say, hey, would you like to take a call from the bill collectors? It's just like you nod no, and it just dumps the call. I think that's pretty cool. So it says, it used 3D modeling and laser topography to develop the shape of its most comfortable AirPods. Every time I've tried AirPods, they've never fit my ears properly. The AirPod Pros I was more interested in because they have those cup designs and they are in the ear, and I prefer that. I don't really like the design of the AirPod Pros, and they don't really fit the design of my ear. They just don't. So they say, yes, you're going to get a charging case, and you can even use the Apple Watch wireless charger to charge the charging case. So it says, yes, AirPods 4 will be available for $129, and AirPods 4 with active noise canceling will be $179. So then they said, yes, we got the new Apple Watch Ultra 2. We are debuting it in black, so they have a new black color. So, if you haven't already gotten an Ultra 2, you can always get an Ultra 2 with black. Me personally, I like mine in titanium silver. I like the way it looks. So it says Apple Watch 10 will include features for sleep apnea. I don't know if that'll help you get discounts on it from doctors who, if you do a sleep apnea test, they have their own devices and everything to do that. So I don't know if it'll help you. Maybe your doctor might decide to use Apple Watch, and maybe you'll be able to write it off on your insurance, possibly. Apple Watch Series 10 launches September 20th. Pre-orders begin today. It starts at $399. Then they say Apple Watch announces Apple Watch Series 10 with the thinnest design ever, biggest display. So yeah, that's kind of what I had heard. I heard they were going to stretch the display, and they were going to basically make it go from side to side, end to end, so that, you get like an infinity edge feeling at the edge of your iPhone, at the edge of your watch. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But that's basically, to tell you the truth, that's basically like it. It's like they disappointed me by not having the, what was it called? The 2 terabyte version. So they basically already disappointed me. After that, I would say I was, again, disappointed by not being able to get the AirPod 3rd generation. So it looks like I've got $2,000 that I'm just going to tuck away and maybe, if I'm lucky, make some dividends off it, because it's not going to Apple. It's not going there this year at all.